Hello and welcome to another live broadcast here in the Authentic Married Woman. I am your host, Karen Seitz, and I am a coach and a mentor for married women to teach women how to find their happiness within and let down their walls and reconnect with who they are at a deep level as a way to solve the issues and problems in their marriages. And we're going to be talking today about how that works. And what we're really diving into is why you are not getting the changes that you want in your marriage and helping you see what you're doing and what you're trying to do that doesn't work. And the myth that we're busting today is that conventional wisdom has the answers to your marriage problems. And what I mean by conventional wisdom is are the things like marriage counseling, traditional therapy, reading all the self-help books and all of the marriage books out there, like the five love languages and his needs, her needs, and the relationship cure, listening to podcasts, listening, reading blogs, being a part of this group or other marriage groups, that those things are not going to work to solve your problems. And I want you to think about something for a second. So, our current divorce rate in the United States is 50%. So, if you think about what if your cell phone only connected to calls 50% of the time, or only received and sent text messages 50% of the time, or if you got in your car every morning to go to work and it only started 50% of the time, what links would you go to fix those problems? You would do anything and everything, right? Of course we would. So why are we accepting that a 50% divorce rate is okay? It means what we're doing to have a successful, healthy marriage isn't working. And what we're trying to do to fix those issues doesn't work. And that's a serious problem. So we have to have a different way. And what I wanted to share that I posted in the group this morning was a quote that if you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. So the things that you have been doing to try to fix your marriage problems, the things that I just talked about, the couples counseling, reading the books, joining the Facebook groups, listening to the podcasts, those things aren't going to work. And I want to go into a little bit of why those things don't work. And at the core of all of those methods, there's two main things you have to look at. The first is that couples counseling, reading the five love languages, his needs, her needs, love and respect, all of those things reinforce codependency in a relationship. So think about this for a second. The very model and basis of marriage counseling in those books is that you need to understand your husband's needs and he needs to understand your needs, and that you have to fulfill those needs for each other. And what that does is that puts the state of your happiness, your sense of self, your sense of well being into the hands of your husband. That in order for you to be happy, in order for you to have a fulfilling, rewarding marriage, you need your husband to be a certain way and to be something for you to fulfill your needs. And as soon as he's not, then you are left with being unhappy and not feeling good about yourself and not having your needs met. So it makes those methods make you dependent instead of being able to fulfill your own needs and being able to be who you need to be for yourself, to feel validated, to feel appreciated, to feel loved and accepted. And if you're not being that for yourself, you must understand that nobody else can do that for you. Nobody else can complete you or fill that void or fill that emptiness in you. You must do that for yourself. And so if you're doing marriage counseling or you're reading the five love languages, see if you can see how those methods and those approaches are flawed, and they're going to give you short-term band-aids, but they're not going to give you long-term permanent changes in your marriage that allow you to keep growing and keep moving forward and keep experiencing a depth and a meaning in yourself and your relationship. Those are just going to be band-aids, and they don't get to that deeper core issue, which is that you've lost yourself and you don't know who you are anymore, and you're looking to your husband to fill that gap and to be who you need him to be for you so that you can feel good, and that's never ever going to work. So the other piece that I wanted to talk about and why some of these things don't work, especially the blogs and reading more books or being part of this Facebook group, being part of other groups, is that that's a very passive approach to try to work on the problems in your marriage. And if you want to see deep, meaningful, transformational change, you must take action, and you must take the right kind of action using the right strategies that's going to solve that deeper core issue, which is that you've lost yourself and also that you don't feel good about yourself. And we're going to talk about that more in just a moment. So I want to take a minute before we go much further to review our 3 principles, because these are the things that you have to focus on. These are the things that you've got to be willing to do for yourself. The things that you've never done, using the right strategy, doing it from the right perspective. These are the things you've never done. And if you want to see changes, you must be willing to do these things and take action and learn how to do them in your life and how to do them for yourself. And if you do, then you will see changes in your marriage. And we'll talk about why it works that way too today. So the first principle that sets the framework really for this group and what we are all about, it sets the framework for how I help other women, is that you are responsible for your happiness. And I know that sounds like such a simple concept that you've heard time and time and time again. But the problem is very few of us know how to take the right action to find our happiness internally. And the problem is that we in how we work as humans and how the mind works, we look for people and things to make us happy. And it's very, very hard to break that cycle. But you must realize you are responsible for your happiness, and happiness is an inside job. It does not come from outside of you. It doesn't come from your husband, from your marriage, from your job, from your kids. It must be cultivated from within. The second principle is that you are the only person that you can change. You can't change your husband, you can't change your boss, you can't change your kids, and they can't change you for you. That if you want to see change, you must focus on changing yourself and stop trying to change your husband and stop trying to change things outside of you that you have no control over. You really do only have control to change yourself. And our third principle is that what it means to be an authentic married woman or an authentic woman is having a relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are. And from that place, you can bring all of you into your life. No more facades, no more masks, no more faking your way through, pretending like everything is great, pretending like you're happy, pretending like you don't have the problems that you have. You must be willing to face yourself and face the issues in your life and be willing to take responsibility for your experience and take responsibility for where you are in your life. That's part of the process of building a relationship with yourself. And what that does is then you just get to be you. You don't have to be the perfect wife. You don't have to be the perfect mom or the perfect employee or the perfect daughter. You can just be who you are. And when you show up as who you are, not trying to be something to get something in return, then you begin to feel really good about yourself. And then you no longer feel like a fake. You no longer feel like a fraud, which is probably one of the biggest complaints that I get from my female clients, is how they feel like they are pretending and they feel like they're fake and they're an imposter in their lives, that they've lost touch with who they are. They don't really even know who they are anymore after trying to play the role of mom and wife and daughter and all those different roles we have in life. They lose sight of who they are. So I hope you can see if you don't fix that core issue of not knowing who you are and having and being lost from yourself and feeling fake, nothing you do to try to work on your marriage and nothing that your husband does to try to meet your needs is ever going to solve that. So if you want to see real change, that's what you have to get into. So the next piece that I want to talk about in this is who we are here to serve, who I work with are women who are with good men and women who know that they play a part in the issues in their marriage and they're willing to do hard work. They're willing to look at themselves. They're committed to change and they're ready to change now. They're at a place where the pain of where they're at in their marriage and the problems that are there are much greater than the pain of moving forward and doing something different and taking that risk and venturing into the unknown and really putting that focus on themselves. Those are the women that I work with, and they must be with good men. So, what I mean by a good man, which you might question whether you are with a good man or not, and that's really normal. But if you can think back to the man that you chose to marry, the man you fell in love with, who you wanted to spend the rest of your life with, and you look back and you can see that he's hardworking, he's responsible, he's trustworthy, he has good intentions at heart, he's kind and thoughtful and generous. That's what we mean by a good man. And I can hear you. I know the fight and I know the struggle because I've been there myself. You might be thinking, well, that's not my husband. That's most likely coming from a place because of all the issues and all the problems over the years, and from a place of having your walls up and guarding yourself. You're having a different experience of your husband. And what also happens is when we don't feel good about ourselves on the inside and we don't like who we are, what we end up doing that we're often very unconscious of is we project how we feel onto our husbands. So we lose sight of who they actually are as good men because we're putting how we feel bad about ourselves onto them, making them responsible for how we're feeling negatively about ourselves. And that's just a defense mechanism that we have as humans to protect ourselves from seeing what we need to see about ourselves, to protect ourselves from being exposed, from having to face ourselves, from having to face emotional discomfort, and ultimately from having to change at a deep, fundamental, internal level. We have these defense mechanisms like putting how we feel about ourselves onto our husbands and making them responsible. So we lose sight of who they really are as good men. And on the other side of that, when we're projecting how we feel onto them, they begin to feel like they're wrong and they begin to withdraw and disengage from the relationship. So again, we can't really see who they are. And I want to share with you a description of a good man. And this is in working with men over the years. One of the things that we do is we have them describe and define themselves as good men because they lose sight of that for themselves. So this is comes from working with many men and their own experience of themselves as a good man. This is who they are at their core, and we hear the same things over and over and over again, maybe said in a little different way, but this is generally how a good man knows himself as a good man. I take responsibility for my life. I am honest and forthcoming. I can admit when I am wrong and have remorse. I keep my word. I am kind and generous. I care about people and don't want to see anyone in pain. If something needs to be done, I'm willing to work really hard to get it done. All I want is my wife to be happy, and I am willing to do what I need to do to make that happen. And that's what we see again and again in working with men, how they describe themselves as good men. And of course, you might be saying, that's not my husband. And thinking that's not who I'm married to. But if you can imagine the walls that you've maybe put up to protect yourself and the ways that you feel about yourself on the inside, how if you're projecting that onto your husband, then you can't see him or experience him as these things. But as you learn to change yourself and you learn to do the things that you need to be doing in your life and for yourself that make you feel good about who you are, and you take responsibility for your happiness to find your happiness on the inside, then you begin to project that out onto your life, onto your husband, onto your marriage. And then you can experience your good man as this description that I just shared with you. So, in order to do that, we have to stop doing what we've been doing to try to work on the problems in our marriage. We have to stop reading the books and trying to understand the love language and trying to fulfill our partner's needs and putting them first and going to couples counseling, trying to become who we need to be to get the love that we want. That doesn't work because that core issue again is feeling lost from yourself and not feeling good about yourself. So you have to stop doing those things that don't work and do something different that really does work. And take it from me. I've shared this many times in these videos. I was a book addict. One of my mentors calls it shelf help. And I had a stack of self-help books on my shelves and the marriage books. I tried the couples counseling. I I listened to the podcast. I did all the things. I did all the conventional wisdom. And all it ended up doing was putting a bigger wedge between me and my husband, and it drove a bigger wedge ultimately between me and myself because I was focused on the wrong areas and I was putting all my energy and effort into all these things that we're told that work, but none of it worked. And so I had to refocus my energy and effort onto myself and really learn what that meant and really learn how to build a relationship with myself so that I could get the changes that I wanted in my marriage and in my life. It had to start with me. So what we have to be willing to do, here's the solution. I have 3 solutions on where you need to put your focus and energy and to stop doing all the other things which are just band-aid approaches and just reinforce that codependency and don't allow you to take responsibility for your happiness and be the one to change for yourself. So first, you have to focus on changing you. You have to understand that when you try to change your husband, and we have a video on this, which I'll post in the comments, when you try to change your husband, it actually does the exact opposite of what you want it to do, which is to experience change. What your husband does when you try to change him is that he actually turns more into a child than a man, and he begins to feel wrong. And so he shuts down from the relationship and he rebels. And if you can think about that for yourself for a second and think about what you do when someone else tries to change you. And if you're being honest with yourself, can you see that you become stubborn and you dig your heels in? Well, that's exactly what happens when you try to focus on changing your husband and wanting him to be a certain way for you. You sabotage the changes that you want. So you have to stop trying to change your husband, which again is what the books and the marriage counseling do. It's focused on changing the other person. You have to stop doing that because it doesn't work. And you have to find a strategy and a roadmap to work on changing yourself. And it's not about changing those external things. It's not about picking up a new exercise class or picking up a new book or doing something different externally. It's really about turning the mirror around on yourself, doing the hard work and in the exploration of the limitations and patterns and stories that you are caught up in that keep you stuck in your life. And you have to work on focus on changing that and focus on seeing the choices and decisions you make that lead you to an unhappy experience in your life and your marriage. And then you've got to work on making different choices that lead you on a totally new trajectory in your life. And that's what works. So you have to stop trying to change those external things and start working in the right ways to really change yourself. The second thing you have to do, which ties into that first one, is build a relationship with yourself. Now, that was kind of a foreign phrase to me. I was like, well, that sounds good. Or for some people, they're like, that's a totally foreign concept and it doesn't even make sense to them having a relationship with yourself. Or we think that's selfish or self absorbed. But what that really means is getting to know who you are. And it's not just getting to know all the great, wonderful things about you, that's part of it. But in order to get to those truly great, wonderful things about who you are, you have to lift up the rug and shine the flashlight underneath. And you have to see the ways in which you limit yourself, limiting behavior patterns you are in, the stories you are caught up in, and the ways in which you put your walls up and unconsciously push your husband and others away. You have to look at what I call the icky stuff or the underbelly of who you are and take ownership of that and take responsibility of yourself in order to get to know who you truly are in your heart. It's very important to know when we have to look at our underbelly and those negative things about ourselves that that's not who you really are in your heart and in your true self. And you don't have those parts of you because you're bad or there's something wrong with you or you're malicious. These are the unconscious limitations and behavior patterns that you have that you've created unconsciously to protect yourself from the hurt and heartbreak you've experienced in life, and to protect yourself from further heartbreak and further hurt in life or rejection or feeling failure. So you create these unhealthy patterns and negative experiences of yourself to protect yourself. And in order to have a relationship with yourself, you need to be able to see those things and again take responsibility for yourself and for those parts of you so you can let them go and clear the way for you to really get to know who you are underneath that. And if I promise you, if you focus on that and being able to do that for yourself, you're going to see amazing changes in your marriage and in your whole life because you're going to bring a whole new you to the table who feels good about herself on the inside. And again, you're going to project that out onto your life. I love the quotes and I love teasing them apart because we hear them and they sound great, but we don't really take the time to truly understand them through our own experience. But a couple weeks ago or a month ago, I forget, I posted a quote from Helen Keller that was um, happy. Oh, what was it? Shoot. Essentially, when you are happy, you make others happy. I think that was what it was. And what that really means is that when you make yourself happy by getting to know who you are, by liking who you are, and doing that hard work to uncover yourself, you become happy on the inside, and then that becomes your life. That becomes the lens and the mindset and the perspective that you see your life out of. When you're unhappy on the inside, you have an unhappy marriage, you have an unhappy life because you're projecting out your own unhappiness out onto your marriage, onto your husband, onto your life. So when you build that relationship with yourself, that's truly you taking your responsibility for your happiness and for yourself, and you become and you get in the driver's seat of your life and you create the marriage and you create the life that you want just by being happy within yourself. And another reason that works so well, just a little side note, is that one of the things I read in that description of a good man is all I want is my wife to be happy and I'm willing to do what I need to do to make that happen. And the thing is, they can't make us happy, but you can make yourself happy. And when you make yourself happy, that's all your husband wants. And that helps him to show up completely differently. It's really like magic. And because he wants to be that core of who he is, he's ready to show up as that. But you've got to first show up for yourself and show up happy within yourself to experience that. So, the third solution, what you need to do instead of the conventional wisdom that we're talking about today, you have to get the right kind of help. And what I I know to be true. And the only thing that helped me was to get a mentor, to get someone who had a fresh perspective, who knew how to teach me to be happy, who had walked the walk and did those things themselves, who were a true teacher, so that I could learn truly the right strategy without just throwing darts in the dark, really get a streamlined, clear-cut roadmap to becoming happy on the inside and to building a relationship with myself. So you need to get a mentor. You need to get a true teacher who has done this and have them hold your hand, because here are the three things that a mentor does for you. They hold you accountable. How many times have you set out to try something new, and as soon as it gets hard, like a new diet, or you commit to, okay, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, or I'm going to be kind to my husband and show him appreciation this week. That how many times do you set out to do those things, and by like day 3 or 4, or maybe week 3 or 4, you quit and you give up because it gets hard and you don't have anyone there holding you accountable, holding your feet to the fire to get you to move forward on the path that you need to go. We need someone there to hold us accountable, and we also need someone there to bust our stories. And that's the other challenge that I see with marriage counseling and traditional therapy. Not that it can't be helpful, but again, it only provides that short-term relief. They're only band-aids. They don't get to the core. They don't get to the root problem. And the problem with those things is that they actually allow us and enable us to stay in all of our stories, all of our excuses and reasons of why we can't be happy, and why we can't be who we want to be, why we can't fulfill our potential. Most of us have a story, whether it's true or not, but around our childhood or our upbringing or our parents, of why that holds us back in life and why we can't fulfill our potential. So you need someone who can bust you out of those stories and hold the mirror up and say, no, we're letting go of those stories. That's not what's holding you back. You are holding you back. And someone who can help you see the choices and decisions you're making and the beliefs that you have that keep you stuck and prevent you from experiencing the change that you have. So a mentor also gives you fresh ideas, and they give you strategies. They give you a clear-cut roadmap that you haven't tried before. And what's also wonderful about a mentor is they see the things and the possibilities in you that you are not able to see in yourself, but they see those things in you, and then they hold your hand and they guide you to those parts of you that you haven't experienced. Um, and that they've been through it. They know the challenges. They know what you're going to come up against, and then they can hold your hand through that. So a mentor gives you hope by helping you see a possible future and an actual roadmap to get there, where you don't have to drag your husband to couples counseling. You don't have to get him to read the 5 love languages and speak your love language. All you have to do is work on yourself, to have that relationship with yourself, to become happy on the inside, and then you will have what you want. And let's get real. If you could have done it on your own, you would have done it already. So find someone who can help you get to where you want to be, who's going to bust you in your stories, hold you accountable, and give you a brand new roadmap that you haven't tried before, that's actually going to get you to the destination you are looking to get to. So in wrapping up today, what I wanted to come on and talk about, I'm going to read that quote one more time. I posted it today. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you have never done. So if you want the intimacy and the connection and the happy marriage that you crave, you have to stop doing the things you are doing because they're not working, and you have to try something new. And those things that we're doing that are not working, that don't work to solve the marriage issues long term and have long lasting permanent changes, is that the marriage counseling does not provide long term changes. The self help books and the love languages do not provide long term changes. Blogs, reading books, listening to podcasts don't provide long term changes for two reasons. The books and the podcasts and the Facebook groups, those don't provide long-term changes because you're not taking action. It's very passive. And if you want real transformation, you do not need more information. You need to take intelligent action. And you need to be proactive and committed and work hard in your life to see the changes that you want. And then the other things that don't work, like the love languages and marriage counseling, those don't work because they reinforce codependency. It puts your state of your happiness, your well-being, your own relationship with yourself in the hands of your husband. That he needs to be a certain way to speak your love language, to know your needs, to know your childhood challenges and your attachment style, that he needs to know those and act a certain way to make you feel good. And that's going to keep you trapped. And it's brutal. There's no way out of it. Those things might work short term, but then you're up against the same problems all over again. So you have to stop doing those things. You have to start focusing on changing yourself and stop trying to change your husband. You need to build a relationship with yourself so you feel good about yourself and you cultivate that inner happiness. And then you're going to put that onto your husband and that onto your life, and you will have a happy life. And you need to get help. You need a mentor. You need someone to hold you accountable and hold your hand to get you to where you need to be. And it's that simple. If you are happy on the inside, you will have a happy life and a happy marriage, especially being married to a good man. Because again, who they are at their core is they're loving and kind and thoughtful and generous. And they might not be those things to you right now because they've shut down and withdrawn from the relationship, and you're projecting your unhappiness onto them. But when you begin to take responsibility for that, you become happy on the inside. It really is that simple. You will have a happy marriage and you will have a happy life. So if you're listening to this today and you're resonating with, oh my gosh, yes, I've been trying all the things and it's so frustrating because none of it works. And I keep running up against the same problems over and over and over again. And you're sick and tired of being stuck on that hamster wheel, and you're ready to do something that will work, and you're ready to make the changes, and you're ready to do the work, then I want you to reach out and I want you to book a call with me. And I meant to put this up earlier, but I forgot. I want you to go to anewlc.com/talk. There we go. And you can book a free breakthrough call with me. And what we'll do on that call is I'm going to get you crystal clear on what the real issues are that you need to focus on, not the stories you tell yourself. I'm going to tell you and show you exactly what it takes for you to be happy and to turn your marriage around. And I'm going to help you get hope that there really is hope to the issues in your marriage. And we will just have a conversation. And you might want my help too. And if so, that's great. But if not, that's fine too. You can go ahead and book that call. And it could be the call that changes your whole life and sets you on a path to truly being happy and having a happy marriage and having a happy life. So I would love to talk to you. So definitely go book a call at anewlc.com/talk. And thank you so much for being here with me today. And I will see you all very soon. All right. Bye.